Principal Secretary for Industry in the long ministry, the Ministry of MITI, Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment. That's how it begins. Or is it investment, trade and industry?
Investments, trade and industry.
We start with investment.
The I can be
in the absence of the investment, there is no industry.
So investment, trade, industry. Okay.
Yeah.
The PS for the last I is here. We are going to talk about industrialization. Many times we've been here, PS, so we'll be talking about our journey to industrializing the country.
Correct.
And industrializing the country is not necessarily coming up with these big mega factories. It starts from the small, medium factories going to the larger factories. We'll talk about that shortly. CT will give you the day's proverb, as you know.
Yes.
Your job is to listen and give us your interpretation.
Our proverbs for this week come from the Kingdom of Morocco. Yes, this monarchy has been there since the 8th century.
Ish.
Wow. Okay.
The current monarch is called Mohammed VI. Okay? The proverb: if he increases the number of his friends, he will remain with none.
If he increases the number of his friends, he will remain with none. What do you think?
Okay. I think it has to do with priorities. And so if you increase the number of friends, it means that none of them is of priority. But also what it means is that as human beings, there is only so many people that you can deal with. So if there are so many, then you can as well deal with none. I think it's related to something that within the Lydiah dialect that says, if you have many cats, they will not catch a rat. Because they are competing. They're wondering who should go first.
Many cats will not catch a rat.
Whose job is it? So in the end, the work doesn't get done. That will be my interpretation.
In the end, the rat runs away.
Runs away because they're still arguing on who should do the job.
That's a nice one. Okay. Say it in the dialect.
Wali.
Jinga. Which of those is cat? Cat is which one?
Is the first one.
Wali.
Right.
Nice.
Apple.
So we can bring it to Morocco, back to the village.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. How are we in our journey to industrialization? Let me just premise this question. And we talked about it earlier. So industry is recognized as a key driver to economic growth. Our Vision 2030 talks about us being a middle-income industrializing nation in the next 6 years. The Kenya Kwanza Manifesto talks about using industry to spur economic growth, create employment, and also produce goods that can be used locally and for export. And that helps us grow. And that's why there's a State Department for Industry that was established so that you can focus on this. Now, there are very many targets that we've talked about very many times. 20 by 30, 15% by 2027, and so on and so forth. Where are we?
Thank you. Let me paint the national picture, then we'll go more specific into... Yes, this economy, industry is very important. And you know that it contributes about 7.6%. I've looked at the historical data. The highest that we've had industry contributing to our GDP was about 11%. Of course, there has been that decline, which I think we'll go into. Not necessarily because manufacturing is declining, but because we have other sectors taking up that space. So we'll come to that. But when I look at generally our economy, and I know that I would put this in the context of the cost of living and how are we doing as a country. What I would say is when you analyze our economy, largely what you get is a population that is consuming what is not producing and producing what it's not consuming. And so what does that mean? You are importing nearly 80% of what you need into this country, and only producing about 20%. As I've said, industrialization is contributing about 7.6%. To put it more in context about this manufacturing, so you'll see that our total import from China alone, let me just use that as an example, is 450 billion. Our total imports annually by year is 2.5 trillion. That is nearly Kenya's budget for 1 year. That's what we are importing. You can now imagine if you're importing 450 billion from China, how many jobs have you created in China? Many. And how many opportunities have you then done away with within Kenya? And so when you look at it that way, and then also there's something that is very interesting. The small 20% that we are manufacturing, of course, has its issues of taxation, energy, but it also has a different problem, and that's why we are also looking at it. When I'm importing from China, Latiff, I pay cash. I go online, I look at the goods, I pay in US dollars, then the goods come, KRA invoices me, I pay the tax, and the goods are delivered. If I'm manufacturing in Kenya, how do I sell? I deliver my goods into a supermarket, and I'm told, we'll pay you when we sell. So what happens? I tried this when I was a younger man myself. I was doing some little milling, and my little industry died. Why? Because I took 50,000 worth of my flour into a supermarket, and then the supermarket said, we'll pay you when we sell. So after 2 weeks, I went back to the supermarket, and they said, we've sold about 3,000, so give him 3,000.
What?
After another 1 week, we've sold 1,500, so give him that. So the 50,000, I have to go back 10 times. So in the end, it's more expensive for me to kudai pesa. And so when I looked at it, and you can imagine this is only one supermarket. So if you have put your products in 20 supermarkets.
And you have to continue milling anyway. You can't wait.
No, now in the end, all your money is stuck in the supermarket. So you can't get the raw materials, you can't pay the salaries. So we have also a structural problem with the way we handle our industries. And so sometimes I think when people think about, for example, bending bills, they only think about government. One of the things they don't realize is that there is a lot of goods that have been supplied to our own supermarkets that have not been paid for. When Nakumatt died, it died with goods worth 13 billion from Kenyans. These are industries. And so what I'm saying is we are importing 80%, we are manufacturing 20%, but even the 20% that we are manufacturing, when we push it into the market, we are not fair to Kenyan manufacturers. We are actually mistreating them to a point where for you to survive in that space, it becomes quite tough. But that is not to say that manufacturing is not good. If I look at the other side of things, if you put the 20 most rich people in Kenya, probably 15 will be industrialists. So our billionaires are industries. So if they have figured out how to do it, that is where the money is. But that is where also Kenyans are less inclined to invest.
So people see there are too many barriers to entry into industry.
Because we have this we have this wrong idea.
We look at it from the Manu Chandaria side. So
yes, we think
I want to be a big manufacturer. From the onset.
Yes, when we think about the industry, two things happen. Part of it is our education issue. That you notice that our education is not properly aligned to creating technical skills for people to think about how to run an industry. So we see an industry as a very complicated place to be. When we see a machine running, I think that our education system has not properly prepared us that these machines are automated, and most likely you don't need that to know how it works, but it will work. That's one. But two, we also think that a manufacturing situation should be extremely large. If you look at China, if you look at Japan, what it has really built Japanese industry are the small-scale manufacturers. And so that's what we are encouraging now, that you can actually go into manufacturing, you can do small things. These big things that you see have taken 120 years to build. If you look at Manu Chandaria, if you look at most of the industries that we have, Vimalsha, if you have Mabati Rolling, you have all this Defki, It is the grandfather that started, then the father, now it's the grandchild that is running it. And also, if you look at an African culture and mindset, remember 100 years ago, we were not formal, we didn't have schools, we didn't have business. So I would say that the area of entrepreneurship for Africans is fairly new. So while the Indian culture, for example, has been doing trade and investment and industry for many, many centuries, this is a new area. So for most of us, we don't have a grandfather that would have started an industry or a father. But that doesn't mean that you cannot do it. So what we're trying to say is that be that grandfather that would start industry for your family, so that when you're talking about other families that have been doing manufacturing for the last, thicker cloth mills, for example, that has been there for another 70 or 80 years, we cannot say we cannot do it because our fathers didn't do it. We understand where we were 100 years ago, but the people to industrialize this country is you and me. And let me put it a little bit more in perspective. And you've heard this story before. That if you look at Africa, let me just widen this a bit. 55 countries, we account for 1.3 billion people. We have 1.3 billion people, which is 17% of the world. But the share of manufactured products coming out of Africa is only 2.8%. So 17% of the world manufacturing only 2.7%. Let's look at Europe. Europe, with 27 countries, is only 9% of the world, but they're manufacturing 24% of the products. So you can see that if you put the total manufacturing of Africa, the 55 countries, it is only 10% of what China is doing. If you put the total manufacturing in Africa, it's equal to what India is doing. So if you put South Africa, Morocco, Kenya, and everyone, we are only equal to India, one country. That means that, and you can see why. Because if you look at our history, if you look at the last 150 years, is where we got into really formal learning, into formal trade. So you can see that other people have been doing this for a long time. And that is why, let me make the last sentence, that the first industrial revolution that took place in Britain in 1740, that is 300 years ago. And it spread from there to America, to now Asia, when it became very expensive to manufacture in Europe. And America, of course, then it was relocated to China. And from China, it has visited Singapore, Malaysia, Philippines, and so on. People are now talking, so they have had the first industrial revolution 300 years ago, the second, the third. Now the world is talking about the fourth industrial revolution. What escapes most of us is that Africa is yet to experience the first one. So while people are on the fourth stair, they are on the fourth, we have not arrived on the ground floor. So really, and that, so that now as we find solutions as Africa and as Kenya, we have to really contextualize it, that is where we are, that people are going to the fourth industrial revolution. Our industrialization has not reached what Britain experienced in 1740. And so, as we talk about industry, and you can understand, this is, if you put this within our historical perspective, then you can see why then we have issues in that space.
But why is it that we haven't moved?
Yes, we haven't moved because, as I've said, for many of us, first of all, entrepreneurship is a new thing. Industry is even a more newer thing, because you remember the last continent to be incorporated into a corporate world, a world of business and industry, is actually Africa. So our history, although we have a longer history in terms of civilization and other things, but when it comes to formal education, for example, then you find that we had our traditional education that was okay. We had little mining and so on, but the commercialization of it, if you look at even Africa during the prehistoric days, so the pre-colonial days, you'll see that the people who are doing trade were the Arabs. They came here, they bought spices, they bought our ivory, and so we sold through them, but we never really ventured to see where do they take it, how does it go. But the Indians were here looking for some things. If you look at our industrialization here in Kenya, the first grinding mill, if you look at the this jembe thing that we use for farming, I hope that you know that before the Indian arrived here, the Africans were not able to dig 3 feet down here because we didn't have a tool. We had a small thing that we were using to weed our millet. The jembe, which really has enabled us now to go 6 feet, is an Indian invention. So you know that if you look at even the plow that we use, the ox plow, all is the tinga that we use to grind our maize. So our history of industry as Kenya, if you look at it, the milling,
we were slow.
The technology aspects of it. I'm talking like this because I know my father was a very ambitious guy, and as early as 1957, he had bought a motorbike. It was called BSA. It was an Indian model, and we were living in Bungoma, and there was only one Indian in Kisumu that would service it. So every 3 months, he would have to drive it to Kisumu for this Indian to service it. So you can see that our technology in that space, and then our education has not helped, because when we started our education system, we then tailored it to the white collar. You know what we did is when we had the colonial people sitting with their ties in the office, we really admired that. So that when they left, the first priority of the African was how do we replace the Mzungu that has left. So we needed an education that would enable us put on a tie and do the work that the Mzungu was doing. And that is exactly what our education system was doing. So from 1963, we tried to do that. Then we filled up the offices. And we didn't even realize it. And we didn't change our education. So we continued doing more of this theory, white-collar job training, even when there are no jobs. So it's now that we are trying to say, if the job market for people who sit in offices is not working, what is it? So that's how the Chuakali was born, to really try and absorb some of this energy, some of this innovativeness, some of this creativity, and you can see that space, how it's working.
Are you saying that Juakali, as we understand, was actually homegrown?
Yes, that's our homegrown solution to the fact that the path that we were following in terms of all of us getting white-collar jobs was blocked.
But if you consider, again, the historical phenomenon where what we refer to as a modern economy, which encompasses the financial sector, the industrialization, commerce, as it was introduced to us, was not for our benefit.
Correct.
And it was an extractive system.
Yes, and that's why even the crops, if you look at what Kenya exports,
yes,
that's why I started by saying we produce what we don't consume and we consume what we don't produce. So we are producing coffee, we're producing tea, but for who? We're producing flowers, for who? Let's imagine that today you are told that nobody is going to buy your flowers. What will you do with all the flowers you have in Kenya? And because our economy, I agree with you, that the colonial system that was set up was really to give you things that would benefit somebody else.
Yes.
Yes.
And yet, the thing that you see Juakali and the replication of it in the agricultural sector is primarily what it is that kept at some point not this economy running, but the understanding that that was the backbone of the economy, because people were able to feed themselves through what we refer to as that small-scale farming. Because for a long time even, I remember it was in the 90s, yes, when we first started talking about inflation and we started talking about the possibility of countries and the economy going belly up, the predictions that were then made by financial institutions in the West about Africa all failed for the simple reason they had not understood what they then referred to as the hidden economy. Juakali being the hidden economy, the economy where the small-scale farmers or the peasantry and what they did and how they contributed to the economy, people living within the cities and the big towns, and yet a lot of what they consumed came from the rural areas.
Yes.
So if you are looking at demographics of what happens when somebody is buying from the supermarket, it wouldn't tell you the complete picture. Now, our response to the situation that we found ourselves in, where the turning point could take place, that is something that even today we have failed to do, meaning understand probably what the Asian countries who are in a similar predicament as ours at the time that we were getting our independence, or even before then, understood. Changing the thinking and ensuring that their policies now benefit the people directly. Would we say that we have got to a point where, beyond policies, the implementation of these policies are actually geared deliberately to benefit our people?
Let me step backwards a little bit. Before 1990, what the system that the colonial people had set up was a very organized system. So that if you do coffee, so you had small-scale farmers that will then be aggregated around a coffee cooperative society,
yes,
that will go to a coffee union, and then there will be a milling plant, and then there will be export of that coffee.
Yes.
If it's milk, then we had a very organized system that the government even supported and protected. If it's maize, we had the government maize. And in fact, what we did then was a lot of the operations within this sector were done by government. So you find a government milling corporation. United, for example, we had Milling Corporation of Kenya.
Yes,
so we had KCC to take care of the dairy farmers. You had Unga looking at...
we had Kenya Farmers Association.
Yes. And you had KPCU. So we that was more like aligned around the European model.
It was.
And where the farmers would produce and then somebody else would add value. And as I've said, a lot of it was, again, for export. But again, then around 1990, with the structural adjustment of the World Bank and IMF, that we were protecting, were spending a lot of money keeping this uncompetitive
farmers
kind of monopolies in each sector that were then stifling private sector intervention. So what do you do? So you say, okay, liberalize this, open up if it's dairy, open up if it's maize. But one of the things that we did that has stifled this innovativeness of the small-scale person is that when we were saying open up KCC for competition, open up milling for competition, we opened it up, but we didn't realize something, that we did not have people with the resources, enough private sector with money, with know-how, with skills to take over, to compete with the government. So in the process, we created another problem.
Yes.
We created the problem of the middlemen and cartels. So once we opened up maize, then the people who are there could not even do milling, but they became middlemen. So now they know there is a factory that Muga owns in the industrial area, but they will come in Kitale to buy maize, push the price down. So the real competition is not even among the millers.
No.
The competition is among the middlemen. And they are, so what we created is another phenomena, which now, if you look at the Asian economies they have dealt with, that they created a system where the manufacturers who are buying raw materials dealt directly with the small-scale farmers. We have a situation where the millers go through the cartels, or we call it the middlemen. The middlemen push the farmers down. So the situation we have created, and I always talk when I'm talking to the Kenya Association of Manufacturers, I say this. Let's look at this example, two examples. 2 years ago, I come from a sugarcane belt. A ton of sugarcane was 6,500. Why? Because we pushed the farmer, if the production cost, let me assume, is 4,000 shillings per ton, if you start buying sugarcane at 2,000, you push this farmer out of production. Yeah. So the farmers abandon the crop. So this is the wave we go through. So we the middlemen, they push the price down below production. The farmers abandon the crop. There's scarcity of that crop. The price goes up to 6,500, and the millers are buying at 6,500. Then the farmers see a good price. They run back into that crop. When they run back, they overproduce. Then same situation with maize. And so one of the things, and CAM now has something called Agriculture for Industry. We are working with them. And what we have said is, in this situation, there's no winner. If you are a miller, today you are buying maize at 2,500, and the farmer abandons it, and you buy one bag of maize at 6,000, you're not a beneficiary. In fact, we have had situations last year, you remember, where we had to shut down all the sugar factories because there was no raw material. They were harvesting premature cane. So the question that we have agreed with the manufacturers is that I don't think it's good enough for us to sit in our getting white-collar jobs was blocked.
But if you consider again the historical phenomenon where what we refer to as a modern economy, which encompasses the financial sector, the industrialization, commerce, as it was introduced to us, was not for our benefit.
Correct.
And it was an extractive system.
Yes, and that's why even the crops, if you look at what Kenya exports,
yes,
that's why I started by saying we produce what we don't consume and we consume what we don't produce. So we are producing coffee, we're producing tea, but for who? We're producing flowers, for who? Let's imagine that today you are told that nobody's going to buy your flowers. What will you do with all the flowers you have in Kenya? And because our economy, I agree with you, that the colonial system that was set up was really to give you things that would benefit somebody else.
Yes.
Yes.
And yet, the thing that you see, Jua Kali and the replication of it in the agricultural sector is primarily what it is that kept at some point not this economy running, but the understanding that that was the backbone of the economy, because people were able to feed themselves through what we refer to as that small-scale farming. Because for a long time even, I remember it was in the 90s, yes, when we first started talking about inflation, and we started talking about the possibility of countries and the economy going belly up, the predictions that were then made by financial institutions in the West about Africa all failed for the simple reason they had not understood what they then referred to as the hidden economy. Jua Kali being the hidden economy, the economy where the small-scale farmers or the peasantry and what they did and how they contributed to the economy, people living within the cities and the big towns, and yet a lot of what they consumed came from the rural areas.
Yes.
So if you are looking at demographics of what happens when somebody is buying from the supermarket, it wouldn't tell you the complete picture. Now, our response to the situation that we found ourselves in, where the turning point could take place, that is something that even to date we have failed to do, meaning understand probably what the Asian countries who are in a similar predicament as ours at the time that we were getting our independence or even before then understood. Changing the thinking and ensuring that their policies now benefit the people directly. Would we say that we have got to a point where beyond policies, the implementation of these policies are actually geared deliberately to benefit our people?
Let me step backwards a little bit. Before 1990, what the system that the colonial people had set up was a very organized system. So that if you do coffee, so you had small-scale farmers that will then be aggregated around a coffee cooperative society,
yes,
that will go to a coffee union, and then there will be a milling plant, and then there will be export of that coffee.
Yes.
If it's milk, then we had a very organized system that the government even supported and protected. If it's maize, we had government maize. And in fact, what we did then was a lot of the operations within this sector were done by government. So you find a government milling corporation. United, for example, we had Milling Corporation of Kenya.
Yes,
so we had KCC to take care of the dairy farmers. You had Unga looking at...
we had Kenya Farmers Association.
Yes. And you had KPCU. So we that was more like aligned around the European model.
It was.
And where the farmers would produce and then somebody else would add value. And as I've said, a lot of it was, again, for export. But again, then around 1990, with the structural adjustment of the World Bank and IMF, that we were protecting, were spending a lot of money keeping this uncompetitive kind of monopolies in each sector that were then stifling private sector intervention. So what do you do? So you say, okay, liberalize this, open up if it's dairy, open up if it's maize. But one of the things that we did that has stifled this innovativeness of the small-scale person is that when we were saying open up KCC for competition, open up milling for competition, we opened it up, but we didn't realize something, that we did not have people with the resources, enough private sector with money, with know-how, with skills to take over, to compete with the government. So in the process, we created another problem.
Yes.
We created the problem of the middlemen and cartels. So once we opened up maize, then the people who are there could not even do milling, but they became middlemen. So now they know there is a factory that Muga owns in the industrial area, but they will come in Kitale to buy maize, push the price down. So the real competition is not even among the millers.
No.
The competition is among the middlemen. And they are, so what we created is another phenomena, which now, if you look at the Asian economies they have dealt with, that they created a system where the manufacturers who are buying raw materials dealt directly with the small-scale farmers. We have a situation where the millers go through the cartels, or we call it the middlemen. The middlemen push the farmers down. So the situation we have created, and I always talk when I'm talking to the Kenya Association of Manufacturers, I say this. Let's look at this example, two examples. 2 years ago, I come from a sugarcane belt. A ton of sugarcane was 6,500. Why? Because we pushed the farmer. If the production cost, let me assume, is 4,000 shillings per ton, if you start buying sugarcane at 2,000, you push this farmer out of production. Yeah. So the farmers abandon the crop. So this is the wave we go through. So the middlemen, they push the price down below production. The farmers abandon the crop. The scarcity of that crop, the price goes up to 6,500, and the millers are buying at 6,500. Then the farmers see a good price, they run back into that crop. When they run back, they overproduce. Then same situation with maize. And so one of the things, and CAM now has something called Agriculture for Industry. We are working with them. And what we have said is, in this situation, there's no winner. If you are a miller, today you're buying maize at 2,500 and the farmer abandons it and you buy one bag of maize at 6,000, you're not a beneficiary. In fact, we have had situations last year, you remember, where we had to shut down all the sugar factories because there was no raw material. They were harvesting premature cane. So the question that we have agreed with the manufacturers is that I don't think it's good enough for us to sit in our factories and imagine that the raw material can grow itself, that we have to get interested, that we have to really go out. And in any case, let's never buy a raw material below its production cost because it doesn't benefit anyone.
Dr. Is it really possible for an economy to develop, industrialize, grow, get to what the economists call the takeoff stage without the government actively putting in place protectionist measures?
Interventions. Answer that question after this break, PS.
Yes.
22 minutes to 10, time for us to take this break. Our guest is Dr. Juma Mukhwana. He's a principal secretary in the State Department for Industry. He's the man who's responsible for moving Kenya into an industrialized country. How far are we going? How are we doing that? That's what we're discussing this morning. I've got two announcements to make, which are good announcements. One, 2,500 shillings going into one Loop account, and it goes into the account that belongs to Brian Mainge. He says, for me, Loop is a one-stop lifestyle app. What's good about it is accepting payments from any customer from mobile or bank, posting promotional deals on Loop Discover, paying for homestead and business premises utility bills, paying traders who supply me with goods through Loop Till Number or Loop Invest for business growth. He has discovered the very many things that Loop Lifestyle does. It loops your lifestyle so you can do all these things from the comfort of your home. And that's why Brian Mainge, phone number ending with 225, gets 2,500 into his Loop account. Then 3,000 shillings. It goes to somebody. Hey, I renewed my Safaricom home fiber yesterday. Hey, okay. This is a good one. His name is Joshua Makanga. Phone number ending with 300. Now, he has sent us a screenshot, CT, proving that he renewed. Your subscription for the FTTH Silver service has been renewed for 4,100 shillings to change your Wi-Fi name or password, reset link, blah, 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 blah. He paid yesterday to renew for the new month. Do you know what he's getting in terms of speeds for this 4,100? 30 Mbps. 30. So congratulations to you, Joshua Makanga. You get 3,000 shillings worth of airtime coming to you. You can use it either to renew for next month, or you can use it to buy the Safaricom all-in-one package for 3,000 bob. So you just get your life sorted in all ways and one. 20 minutes to 10. We'll be back shortly.
This is the Situation Room the only way to start your day.
Seal the deal every day with the all-in-one plan from Safaricom. Get data, minutes, and SMS all-in-one on-the-go monthly bundle plan from Safaricom. Tune into the Situation Room every Monday to Friday as we unpack the all-in-one monthly plan from Safaricom. Safaricom is for you. There is nothing boring like slow internet. At home or on the go, reliable and fast internet speeds is a game changer. Safaricom Home Fiber is what you need. Safaricom has increased internet speeds at no extra cost. Tune into the Situation Room to learn more about Safaricom Home Fiber and stand the chance to win airtime.
Do you want to live out your life with the utmost convenience? A way of life that is empowered with the necessary tools and solutions to live out your life effortlessly? Then wait no more. Download Loop today and enjoy the best mobile money and banking worlds through a simple platform that delivers payment, credit, and saving services, while at the same time offering personalized journeys and deals to complement your interests and needs. Why wait? Just Loop it. Tune in to the Situation Room every morning and Spice Drive from 3 to 7 p.m. every Monday to Friday and learn more about Loop.
The weather with Spice FM.
It's warming up in Nairobi, currently 19. Going to rise to 25. Mombasa, mostly sunny at 28. Malindi, sunny at 29. Highs of 31 later today. Nyeri, high, sunny at 18. Highs of 26. Nakuru City, sunny at 19. Highs of 26 as well. Kakamega, sunny at 22. Highs of 28. And Eldoret City, 19. Sunny, highs of 25. Johannesburg, sunny at 17. Highs of 25. Lagos, cloudy at 25. Highs of 31. Kampala, cloudy at 22, highs of 28. Mogadishu, partly sunny at 29, highs of 31. Addis Ababa, 16 and sunny, highs of 22. Dar es Salaam, partly sunny at 28, highs of 30. Kinshasa, 24 and sunny, highs of 32. It's a cloudy morning in Paris, highs of 19. Also cloudy in London at 13, highs of 17. It's a sunny afternoon in Beijing, highs of 24. And New York, clear skies tonight at 13. It'll rise to 20 later.
Kenya, are you ready? Crank up the volume and buckle up in style. The Digger Motor Show 2024 is back. Talk of shiny, sleek new models, accessories, and financial services from top brands. Side-by-side timeless classics that will make your heart race. Vintage or cutting edge, there is something here to get your engine revving. Get ready to test drive your automotive fantasies at the Sarit Center, happening from Thursday, October 24th to Sunday, October 27th, 2024. To participate, call Caroline on 0723-803-601 or email cnyandieka@standardmedia.co.ke. Digger Motor Show, the ultimate celebration of everything automotive.
Jam kidogo tu on Juja Road and around Moi Air Base. That's with Mathare, and then coming into Eastleigh, it moves. When you get into the Eastleigh 2nd Avenue, it starts picking up again, but then it'll clear. When you get to Muratina Street, it moves. Thika Superhighway is improving. It's now starting from Mathare, coming all the way just to the interchange with the Thika Superhighway and Muthaiga, and then after that it clears. Beyond that, all the other roads that were looking very busy are now looking okay.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
We continue our conversation with the PS for Industry, Dr. Juma Mukhwana. We're talking about the route to industrialization. So all the things that you've told us, PS, looking at setting the picture and understanding this is where we're coming from as a country and this is where we need to go. We have very many things that we can learn from the first, second, third industrializations across the globe that we can pick up and move. We have talked about many interventions that the government can do, and City was asking about interventions prior to this. Can we really industrialize without government coming in and putting clear interventions? We've seen what the government has done. Establishment of more special economic zones around the country. Establishment of EPZs. Moving with the counties to establish the county aggregation industrial parks across the counties. But those are still things that are very good on paper.
Can I add
2 years
something?
down the road,
Can I
you're
add
not
something
saying
you're just saying?
add.
See the path that we are speaking of. There was a very clear path even at independence, and as we moved along, then I don't know what happened to KIE, Kenya Industrial Estates. I don't know what happened to it. That idea was excellent. ICDC, I don't know what happened. Because we actually had the idea, we had the blueprint, we knew even what to do. This is Uchumi that people talk about.
And we have success stories.
We do have success
And case
stories.
studies.
Because these institutions covered every industry that we have and every commercial enterprise you could think of. And it's what, this idea of having nascent ideas that require maturation, funding to grow. These institutions did precisely that. They died.
And they're still in existence. KIE is still there.
They died, bro.
And drawing a lot of money.
And you know
from
why
the
they died is because of you.
Okay.
Because
That loan they gave me, which I didn't pay.
the model that we had, and we've not been able to, one of the areas that has been very difficult to transit is that initially Kenyans, I'm a PS for industry, and every time I go to my village, the question I'm being asked is, you are the PS of industry, how many industries have you brought? That really summarizes what Muga is saying, that Kenyans have this idea that industrialization will be done by government. So when I look at the models across the globe, there is no country that has succeeded by industrializing through government investing. So government provided the seed that we needed. But where we have failed to do, all this ICDC you are talking about, KIE was supposed to mentor you into manufacturing. So the issue is, and it goes back to our education.
I really hate to contradict you.
And where we started.
But I'm going to have to.
Where I get it is that the government policies, the ICDC was supposed to make you go into industry. KIE is supposed to mentor you, to teach you.
And work with me.
Yes. But now, the person you want to work with is not willing. So if you look at when a Kenyan has some money to invest, where are their priorities? Manufacturing is not one of them. So between you and me, you want to build a hotel. I see it after devolution. If you go to every county, everybody who has extra pennies, you have so many hotels around Kisumu.
Yeah.
You have so many hotels around.
We have so many hotels everywhere.
Yes. When Kenyans have money, industry is not one of the options. So you cannot mentor, and in my language we say, you cannot escort somebody who has no trip. You must start to walk this journey. You can't escort you when you are sitting in your chair. So these efforts.
Exactly. You know the reason why I keep shaking my head as you're speaking?
Yes.
I am one of those people who, at a very early stage, benefited from KIE because I was trying to get into business.
Yes.
Okay? And believe me, without them,
yes,
I would never have done what I did. And I wasn't alone.
Yes.
There are very many people who went for bigger monies than I, even in ICDC. Okay?
Yeah.
Uchumi was an ICDC project. Most people do not know this.
Yes.
Okay? Where do you think the Kanatkos came from?
It came from there, yeah.
Some of these Kenya Beach Hotel, all these things that we speak, where do people think they came? Most people don't even know that's where it came from. The point is, at some point, people who are in positions of authority hijacked these things because they are the ones who are in a position to get the big monies. Now, if those monies didn't do what it was intended for, because how do you explain, for instance, assets of a company like the ones which were actually generated by these industries suddenly being owned by individuals? How exactly do you explain this? That's number one. Number two, when you look at countries like Japan, you look at countries like Korea, Southern Korea, if you look at countries like China, all these companies, you see these huge companies, the government is a shareholder. It's not that the government does. The government participates actively. They are run as commercial enterprises, but in the absence of government backing, believe me, they wouldn't be where they are. So we had the right idea. We definitely had the right idea.
I agree with you. Yes, because and yes, the government can be a shareholder, but you need to run it, like with a commercial model in mind. And Yes, I am not there I know what you're talking about in terms of the process being hijacked, but I would say so some of those efforts that what I'm trying to do now is to say, yes, even now, okay, it's not easy for you to borrow money from a commercial bank and go into manufacturing. That's why ICDC, that is why we had KIE mentoring, but we still have a bit of that. Today, if you go to KIE, of course, you can borrow up to 20 million. We have money there. But what I also see that the gap that we have today, so we have money, is manufacturing a priority. And the other thing that why manufacturing is very difficult and why some of the solutions that we are coming up is that manufacturing is a very expensive venture. If you're going to buy land, you build a factory, you import machinery, then many people see that as very cumbersome and difficult. And that is why what we are doing at the County Aggregation and Industrial Park is an equivalent. I know you are very familiar with affordable housing. Okay, what we are doing at KIPE is actually affordable industrial spaces. So what we are doing with the KIPE is that we are building KIPEs on government land. So we go to Kajiado. The county government gives us free government land. We build the factory on it. In fact, if you saw, we have already advertised for people who want to pick up that space, people who want to. And then the way we are equipping it is two models. So we are building the industry, and we have asked the private sector to put their machinery there. Either for their own use or to lease it out for other people. So you can put a milling plant in our KIPE in Kitale, even if you're not interested in manufacturing. But other people can bring. So if I have 1,000 bags of maize, I come and mill, I brand it Muga, I go. Another person will bring their 500. So that, in fact, we are simplifying the process of manufacturing for you. That now you can go into manufacturing without buying land, without building a factory, without owning machinery, without owning the packaging aspect of it. Somebody else can do it for you, so that your only role is you buy the raw material and then find the market for your product. And because of what I described here, if you look at our advert, and I can share with you what we have asked, is we're also even asking for an e-commerce solution around KIPEs. So we are saying the products that we are making out of KIPE, we want to work with a private sector person that can create an online selling platform, so that if I make my maize in Kitale, I can sell it online. I can sell my njugu online. So that we try and deal with the issues that I described about payments and the kind of issues that we do. So this is the model that we are trying to use. We have already advertised. So we have advertised for 4 things: for people who want to take up the space, put their factory and manufacture; people who want to put machinery into this system for their own use or for other people to use. We have also advertised, we are working with the Council of Governors, and we have agreed that the national government and the county government may not be the best to run the KIPEs. So we have also advertised for management services. So we are saying, okay, not to manage, we've put this into regions. The Lake region area, we can have one private person that will onboard
so the economic blocks.
So we have invited private people to come in and help us to onboard these manufacturers, manage them, get them to pay rent, and make a commission out of whatever rent they make. And the last solution that we are looking for is an e-commerce solution, so that all the products made under KIPEs can be sold, and we are working with post office, with Posta, through the EMS, to say that anything you buy online, you buy fish, it can be delivered to your house within 24 hours. So with hindsight, and with the knowledge of how difficult it has been for us to go into manufacturing, we have really simplified this model. And today, as we talk, if you come to my office, I have a big heap of papers that people are looking through, saying who wants to make macadamia in Embu, who wants to do avocado in Kirinyaga, who wants to do what in Kiambu, who wants to do fish in Homa Bay, and that's what we are now looking, because this was an expression of interest.
Question,
yes.
PS. Ahead of all this, is there a harmonized strategy for KIPEs that's been done with all the 47 counties and the State Department for Industry as national government that says this is our strategy document that someone can look at and say, this is what KIPEs is all about? Is there something like that?
We are still kind of working on it, because the consultation we've had a lot of, if you work with counties, there's quite a bit of consultation that you need to do. So we have a draft.
Is this an important document?
Yes, very important.
So why don't
we are actually putting it together in line with what I'm describing here. It's an important document. It requires slightly more consultation because at some point, again, some of the issues when we actually had a fairly complete draft. Then the MCS came in, the council. So we are meeting it. County assemblies. They thought they had a role to play, which they thought we had ignored. So we are putting it together, and I think within the next 1.5 months we will be having something that we can share. Yes.
Don't you think then inviting these other investors is putting the cart before the horse? Because, like you're saying, this process of coming up with a harmonized strategy is taking so long because there's political horse trading.
Yes, true, correct.
And a lot of awareness that needs to be created with the various stakeholders. The county assembly needs to understand. Each county executive needs to understand. The various communities,
the farmers, societies,
all those need to understand.
And even the private sector that want to plug into these processes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because now, by the time they start understanding, the horse will have bolted because there'll already be people who jumped onto your advert and started investing in this area. So the people now start understanding, I can actually set up a macadamia thing in Kirinyaga, but they go and find there are already 4 people who have set up macadamia. And the backlash will start from there. The people who've set up this macadamia thing in Kirinyaga are not even from macadamia. He types CA too. How will you deal with that?
Yes, of course, we don't expect it to be all smooth. And as you, this has been for me a really learning process. How you can do a project on a national scale that also involves the county governments, both the executive county government and also the political part of it, the MCAs, the county assemblies. The amount of energy that one has to spend on aligning thinking and aligning strategy. And remember, even when you look at the national policy on industrialization, with the current one that we have, the county governments did not have a role. But we are revising that. Of course, now we are doing a new industrialization policy that again now brings in. So part of what we are doing is the strategy, but we are also working on a national industrialization strategy that recognizes the role of the county governments, the farmers. So it's a fairly complex area, but we are navigating it.
Okay.
Yeah.
What assurances will you give people who respond to your advert that, one, they are going to be fairly considered and that they're going to be supported in whatever level of investment they put in the KIPES? Yes.
We have nearly 400 industrial spaces. Remember, we are building 8 industrial spaces in each county. Some of them is almost at 90%. They are roofing, others are, and so. The competition is high, but you see, when you apply, you have to apply. I want to go to Embu and I want to do honey. I want to go to Embu and I want to do coffee. I want to go to Kirinyaga. So when we look at the diversity of the applications, we will give it a very, very fair. So we can onboard up to 8 industries. And remember, part of what we are also asking is that when we can onboard you not to manufacture for yourself, but for you to put up a common manufacturing facility. So really, when I look at the model, the way it's coming up, this is innovative. I know it's complex. Nobody else has tried this kind of thing. We actually, this is if it works, we shall be like the role model of how to bring small people into manufacturing. So we are really hitting hard. We are. It is complex. It is a little bit difficult, but I think that it will work.
Once you've announced the successful bidders,
yes,
please come. Let's talk.
Thank you.
And we see what else they're doing.
Asante.
Because there's still a lot more that we need to keep having these conversations. And thank you very much for honoring our invitation today.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.